He's your first love. I intend to be your last. However long it takes.
Welcome to Mystic Falls, the home of the Vampire Diaries, the originals and the legacies. Today, we'll be discussing Caroline, the relationship between Klaus Mikaelson and Caroline Forbes, which is arguably so powerful that even Damon and Elena wish they had this kind of chokehold on the audience. We're going to discuss why women love this couple, and, once and for all, determine if this relationship is toxic. By fictional standards, that is. Not real ones. Warning, I'm about to get a little dark romance book talk girly up in here today. We're going to be talking about a relationship that's dripping with possession, power exchange, manipulation, touch her and die energy, dark themes, and it's going to outright ruin you. In the best possible way, of course. Now, with that, grab your cozy drink and relax, darling, because I'm about to go a little deep. Now, before we can fully snorkel into their relationship dynamics, we need to take a quick refresher on who Caroline and Klaus are. So, if you're a diehard stan, you can skip to the next chapter, unless you enjoy listening to me. I know I enjoy you being here, kitten. Caroline Forbes is the daughter of the local sheriff in Mystic Falls. She enters season 1 as a human who is good frenemies with Elena Gilbert. Caroline in season 1 falls into the common archetype of a pick-me. Not in a way that's dangerous, she's just desperate to be liked, to be chosen, and she feels like she has to compete with Elena because Elena is this mythic, perfect woman who everything comes easily to. Elena was the head cheerleader, dating the most popular guy in school, Matt. She was everyone's favorite person. And Caroline was the daughter of a woman who was always at work and a father who abandoned her. That left a wound in her that made her feel unwanted. At the end of season 1 / the beginning of season 2, Caroline was in a car wreck and she was turned into a vampire by Catherine. This radically changed her life. And after a season from hell, coming to terms with herself and finally coming into her own, Caroline enters season 3 as a fully formed person with confidence and strength. She no longer feels in anyone's shadow because she doesn't compare herself anymore. Klaus Mikaelson is the oldest vampire in the world, the original of the originals. Well, technically, all of his siblings were turned at the same time, but he claims the moniker. Klaus is the bastard child of his mother, who had an affair with a werewolf. Through the spell that created vampires, this made him a hybrid, but his witch mother cast a spell to bind his wolf side.
Klaus wasn't his son. She tried to make it right. She put the hybrid curse on Nick to suppress his werewolf side, and then she turned her back on him.
In season 2, we rarely see Klaus, but the show builds him up to be this mythical character whom everyone is afraid of, making him the biggest bad of all time at this point. Klaus unlocks his werewolf side, and in season 3 is on a mission to find a way to make more hybrids. Personally, I loved this. I loved this so much that I added my own version, my own spin, if you will, on hybrids to the Gemstone Soul series. Only mine are a mix of dire wolf werewolves and vampires, and Kelly calls them wolfpires because iconic. And so, the villain in everyone else's story, Klaus Mikaelson, finds himself interested in the most beautiful and tempting woman in Mystic Falls, the one woman who refuses to want him, Caroline Forbes. I want to know what you think. Since you're about to hear my take as a professional author, who do you ship Caroline with? If you're Team Tyler, give me a wolf emoji. If you're Team Klaus, give me a black heart emoji. Because baby, Klaus is basically the ascended Astarion of this universe. Let's be so for real. And if you're Team Stefan, give me a clown emoji. Okay, I'm just kidding. Give me a bat emoji instead. And while you're down there in the comments, let me know why. Because by the end of this video, you're definitely gonna know who I ship and why. Women want to be chosen. There's this known phenomena among women, the pick-me. A woman who is so desperate for a man's attention. She's often putting other women down, competing with other women, and willing to put herself and others into horrible situations for validation. Typically, these cases, women choose to seek male validation for a few reasons. 1, patriarchal and social standards favoring men. 2, not understanding the difference between validation and romantic or sexual interest. 3, simply because As we all universally know, as a woman, it is insanely easy to get men's attention and approval. However, this act does not come from a true need for men's validation. Oh no. As an ex-Pickme myself, I can honestly say this comes from a wound that attention solves. And for whatever reason, men's attention is the one more natural for you to seek. For me, it was a mix of growing up fundy, being told I only mattered if a man wants me, in combination with how easy it was to get men's attention. It ended with me being at rock bottom and then years of therapy to heal. But just like for me, Caroline's pick-me behavior, and many other women's, comes from the wound of not being chosen. It could be that our parents are abandoning us. It could be having a parent who never treated our needs as important. Or it could be parents choosing something else over us as their children. For me, my family cared more about their high-demand religion than they did about me and who I am. And both my biological father and stepfather chose addiction over me. My stepfather, who I just call Dad, he did get sober and's been sober for a long time, and we built a great relationship. But building that relationship didn't erase the wound. Whereas for Caroline Forbes, her father abandoned her. And rather than understanding it, because he realized that he was gay, in her adolescent mind, it was simply because her mother and her were not enough. She blames her mother, and she's desperate to be good enough so that maybe he'll choose her again. This translates to Caroline in season 1 wanting to be chosen over Elena, who she envies because Elena is just always naturally chosen. She even says, "It's always Elena, and it's never me."
Why didn't he go for me? You know, how come the guys that I want never want me?
I'm not touching that.
I'm inappropriate. I always say the wrong thing. And Elena always says the right thing. She doesn't even try. And he just picks her. And she's always the one that everyone picks for everything. And I try so hard, and I'm never the one that...
It's not a competition, Caroline.
Yeah, it is.
Caroline seeks to be chosen by overworking herself, fighting to become Miss Mystic Falls, taking on being head cheerleader, and even getting with any man who will make her look good. Slowly as the season progresses, she starts to feel more confident after surviving what happened with Damon and building something new with Matt. However, ultimately it's becoming a vampire that changes her. Like Klaus says to her, she would never take the cure for vampirism, even if she could. She likes being strong and powerful and confident in this version of herself she has become.
We all want the cure.
Do we? Do you?
It doesn't matter. There's only one, so it's not like I'm gonna get it anyway.
But if you could, you wouldn't, would you? You prefer who you are now to the girl you once were. You like being strong, ageless, fearless. We're the same, Caroline.
Many women have a similar wound to Caroline. We want to be chosen. Once Caroline's no longer feeling like she needs to be chosen because, well, she learned to choose herself, she becomes compelling enough that people want to choose her. Enter Klaus. Klaus could have anyone. Klaus could remove Vervain and compel her, force her, control her. Klaus could blackmail her, trap her, ruin her if she doesn't comply. But he doesn't. Instead, he expresses his feelings. He outright and early on expresses that he fancies her.
I fancy you. That's so hard to believe.
Yes.
Why? You're beautiful, you're strong, you're full of light. I enjoy you.
It starts based on her looks, but it becomes more. He's open about being more every single step of the way, too. He chooses her over other people. He chooses her over his plans. He even ultimately allows her to be with Tyler at times because he cares more about her than his desire to be with her. He's the tyrant the Dark Lord, the king, the god figure. He's not literally those things. He's those tropes. He would never bow to anyone, but still he chooses to kneel for her. He sees her as special when nobody else ever has. And that's intoxicating, and it's also healing. Women see Klaus's line,
He's your first love. I intend to be your last.
What we see there, we see devotion, loyalty, being chosen. There's a unique high in that. It's why having a man text you back makes you kick your feet like a little girl. It's why creators obsess over getting likes and comments and views, because we see them as validation that our thoughts and who we are matter. It's why having your crush wink at you from across the room utterly wrecks you. It's why somebody saying that they're vowing in sickness and in health melts your heart, because you're mattering to someone else so much that they changed themselves and their world for you. And honestly, this would not work if we were with season 1 Caroline, because Klaus would have broken her. He would have instantly gotten over her. He would have never seen the depth in what came from the chase, and he would have gotten bored. They work because she was a complete person when he met her, and she didn't need validation or to be picked anymore. And because of that, she represents most women. When we're a pick-me, we're putting on a mask and playing a part. We're being what we think we need to be picked. Whereas with Caroline and the fantasy of being chosen, we're being ourselves. Every part of ourselves, even the parts that we feel are like flaws and that no one will ever want. And then here comes this man who could have anyone he wants, but all he wants is us, for who we are, exactly the way that we are. And that's the fantasy, one of many, that Klaus and Caroline provide. Now, is this healthy? In a real world sense? Absolutely the fuck not. She said no. He kept chasing. She was uninterested. He pushed. She was off the table. He didn't care why Tyler was there. But in a fictional sense, it's enemies to lovers. He was toxic to her. He did hurt her. He made her collateral damage.
Are you going to kill me?
On your birthday? Do you really think that low of me?
Yes.
My apologies. You're what's known as collateral damage. It's nothing personal. You can have 1,000 more birthdays. All you have to do is ask. There you go, sweetheart. Have at it.
But then he healed her on her birthday, showed vulnerability to her, unsure if she'd want to live or not.
And I could let you die. If that's what you want. If you really believe your existence has no meaning. I thought about it myself. Once or twice over the centuries, truth be told.
He let her bite him, which in the TVD world has a deeper meaning because vampires sharing blood with other vampires, well, it carries certain implications. But we can address that in a mini essay if you want. Klaus would sacrifice the world for Caroline because he chose her above all else. She's his rock. She can pull him out of anything, even Silas using mind control on him.
Good! I feel sorry for you.
Oh, turn your back on me!
I should have turned my back on you ages ago!
It's gone.
What?
Pain. The pain is gone. It was never there. He got in my head. Silas got inside my head. You took my mind off it. You brought me back, Caroline.
That level of codependency in fiction builds an anchor. This is typically called the Interlocking Sanctuary Arc. An interlocking sanctuary arc is a dynamic in which two fully independent and often opposing characters are placed into a story context that forces them to rely upon one another, either through plot, relationships, or romance. A tactical alliance is one of the most common examples of this narrative device. To the outside world, it seems like two people are forming codependencies, either emotionally or physically, when in reality, that connection, it's built out to mythic or unrealistic proportions, and it causes the narrative to consciously pool story resources. It forces two uncompromising characters with distinct motives to merge into a shared conclusion without losing what made them unique. Klaus never stops being a villain, but he's soft for Caroline. Caroline never stops being a strong and independent woman, but she's soft for Klaus. This is typically known in writing as compartmentalized vulnerability, and it's what keeps relationships feeling open and romantic without taking away from the devices used in the non-character focused elements of the plot, like Klaus wanting his hybrids or Klaus fighting against Silas. So from the writer's perspective, but also from the perspective of viewers and readers, their relationship doesn't fall into toxic obsession, because them being overwhelming and morally gray, that's the vehicle that moves the subplot. It's also the purpose of them even being a couple, if you will. It's easy to judge stories based solely on whether we'd want something like that in real life, but fiction isn't real life, and readers and viewers in general, well, they're smart enough to realize something is not real life, and it's not going to shape how they see the world. And to enjoy complex stories with darker elements, that's more a reflection on one's ability to divorce themselves from reality and embrace the fantasy. We should not simply label something toxic solely because it's aimed toward a female audience. For example, if you remove the romance and you made Klaus and Caroline non-romantic allies or friends, this entire conversation online about toxicity would largely vanish because we would accept those same tropes and narrative devices in fiction that's aimed towards men. And we do so all the time without question. The gender of an audience does not change the validity of a plot device. Caroline and Klaus see each other. For centuries, Klaus has been a character no one has really seen. And when I say that, I don't mean with their eyes. I mean they don't truly know him. They don't experience him in his full depth. He's always the monster, the villain, the epic larger-than-life tyrant who will destroy worlds. But that isn't who Klaus really is. Originally, as we discussed, Klaus is the bastard son of the original witch and a werewolf. And unlike Caroline, Klaus has a very similar wound centered around feeling unchosen. His father discovers what he is and decides that he's a monster. His family works to curse him, to bind his werewolf side because it's wrong and perverted and profane in their eyes. An entire half of what makes Klaus who he is treated as broken. In retaliation, Klaus spends centuries becoming the villain his father always believed him to be. He convinces himself that through power and fear, he can control people and make sure that they never leave him. And this also includes staking members of his own family and keeping them in boxes just so that they won't leave. However, where Caroline's wounds come from her father leaving her, Klaus's wound comes from his father never accepting him. It comes from never being good enough exactly the way that he was, and as a result, Klaus never truly fits in anywhere. He's part vampire, he's part werewolf, yet he never fully belongs to either group. He is the only one of his kind, and he becomes desperate to build people who are just like him. Although the sire bond gives Klaus control over his hybrids, I don't think control was ever his only motivation. Klaus wanted a real family, a pack, a purpose, a sense of belonging. And even though those desires became tangled up with darker ambitions about power and conquest and building an army, for Klaus, he wanted to be known, and no one had ever truly seen him. Even his own family doesn't. While they know his history, his past, his story, they struggle to see the real person underneath of all of it. Rebecca doesn't always see Klaus as the man who loves art and music. She sees her older brother, who is continually controlling her life, ruins her relationships, and keeps her from pursuing people she loves because he doesn't believe they're good enough for her. And Elijah? Elijah often sees Klaus as a responsibility, a burden. Someone that he loves deeply, yes, but someone who repeatedly creates chaos that Elijah feels obligated to clean up. He's honor-bound to stay at Klaus's side because of who Elijah is and how he respects family. And then there's Cami. A lot of people might argue that Cami understands Klaus better than anyone. And psychologically speaking, that might be scientifically true, but understanding someone's motivation is not the same thing as seeing them. Cami sees Klaus as a puzzle. As a psychology student, she becomes fascinated by him. His wounds, his trauma, the scared little boy whose father never loved him. She studies him. She wants to understand why he acts the way that he does. Cami is kind of like a child discovering an insect for the first time and becoming fascinated by it. She's standing there studying it, wondering, why does it look like that? Why does it move like that? And why this flower when there are so many other flowers it could land on? And there's a difference between understanding why someone became who they are and then accepting them the way they are. And that's where Caroline is different from Cami. Caroline sees Klaus for who he is. While she knows he's the villain and she knows he can be a monster, she openly admits that he's not the monster or villain in her story. To her, he's simply another person she knows, a person that she has come to care about, and another piece of what makes her who she is. Caroline sees the vulnerable man underneath of everything else. The man who has feelings about birthdays. The man who dreams about her seeing the world because he doesn't want her to miss out. The man who loves art and music and the beauty that comes from humanity. The man who gave her kindness when he really didn't have to. And the man who saved her life after realizing that his own actions had been putting her in danger and he didn't want to live with the fact that she might die. She sees all of those little things that are the soft edges of his soul. And while they're not enough to make him a good person, they're still enough to remind her that there is a person in there, a person who can be cared about. And Klaus desperately wants to be enough. He wants people to connect with him without him needing to put on the mask of fear and power. He wants to be known for who he is, not just as the strongest person in the room. And that's why he's so drawn to Caroline, because none of those things that are his mask impress her. They don't sway her or seduce her. What works on Caroline is Klaus showing little pieces of himself that he hides from everyone else. Which is ironic because Klaus's deepest fear is simply, if people see the real me, they will reject me because I am not enough and I will never be enough. And the interesting part is that while Caroline does reject him making sexual advances, she doesn't reject him as a person. She allows him to keep coming back into her life and interacting with her because she doesn't approve of what he does, and she's currently in love with Tyler. And obviously she has standards, but at the same time, she knows who he is. And her standards for him are more, I know you're capable of doing this, so why don't you do it? I know you can be better, so be better.
Then show me your compassion. Show him the mercy that I would show you.
And she doesn't expect him to be better for her. She expects him to be better for himself. And as their story progresses, it becomes increasingly clear that Caroline develops feelings for Klaus. And it's not because of what he can give her. She doesn't care about power or money or status anymore. She's outgrown those things. You could take all of those things away and she would still choose to be standing in a forest arguing with him about Tyler, because that's who they are. They see each other exactly the way that they are. And I say they see each other because guess what? Baby girl, this works both ways. Klaus sees Caroline too. He immediately recognizes that she would never truly want the cure, even if there was more than one dose. He sees the parts of Caroline she doesn't always want to admit out loud. Her strength, her ambition, her confidence, her darker impulses, the parts of herself that sometimes she tries to hide from everyone else. And Klaus doesn't love her despite all of those things. Klaus isn't saying, despite you being strong, despite you having a dark side, despite you being stubborn, despite you having moments where you're annoying. He loves her because of those things, because those are the traits that makes her who she is. They make her snarky and sassy and perpetually unimpressed by him, which is something he's never experienced before. She's the one person who saw him clearly and went, I think the fuck not. And ironically, that's why they worked. And now I have to know, which did you love more? The Vampire Diaries or the originals? Thank you for being here today, because writing is my passion. And with subscribers like you, I get to chase that passion. And I'm so excited to be giving more narrative breakdowns and character analysis through the lens of someone whose entire world is about writing and creating stories. And I hope that you're going to be here along the way for that ride. I hope to see you in the next one. And good night, darling.
And now you're all mine. And I'm all yours. Until morning, at least.